In my last video, I described the decisions I took before I even started filming any weddings. Since I wrote that script, I actually shot 3 very different weddings, each one of them with a different challenge that taught me something. The first wedding was an elopement, so anything that I planned before that's for a normal wedding, let's say, I had to adjust for the size of a wedding which had only 4 guests. The first thing that this wedding showed me was how unprepared actually I was. I didn't have enough batteries, my memory ran out quick, and also I discovered one of the biggest weaknesses of my camera, the overheating. During the ceremony, one of my Fuji cameras actually overheated and I lost a decent chunk out of the ceremony. Luckily I had a total of 3 cameras and I managed to cover enough so that I can have a full edit for the ceremony, but it wasn't nice, of course. The third camera I was using as a C cam was the Canon M50 Mark II. It's a great little camera. Yes, it's not the best quality, but it's good enough for the C cam. However, I didn't think ahead to adjust the settings and create a more flat profile so that it's gonna be easier for me to match colors afterwards. They didn't have a reception or something like that because obviously they're just 6 people in total. Instead, they had like a lovely dinner at a restaurant where they gave actually their speeches. The problem with that was that the space that they had was very private, very beautiful, but very poorly lit. This is where I found out that my Helios lens, which is at f2 at the maximum aperture, can barely manage with my Fuji. It's a bit noisy, but luckily Fuji has quite good noise. However, the maximum aperture on the other 2 cameras that I could have were f2.8 and f3.5, which wasn't enough. It was too much noise, especially on the Canon. The Fuji's noise is again quite good. This issue led me to discover the power of black and white. I found out that when I use such a high ISO, one of the highest ever used actually with my Fuji, the image starts getting mushy. I don't know how to describe it, but it's very difficult to color grade. This one I decided to switch to black and white. The image looked a bit nicer, and this way I need to only play with the contrast and with the black and white, but nothing else. While I was editing the video, since I had to use black and white on the speeches, I actually remembered the movie Oppenheimer, which I had recently watched. In this movie, Christopher Nolan was actually using black and white to separate 2 different point of views and 2 different time periods with black and white image. This gave me the idea to actually use a similar method in my wedding films, and I kept using this whole black and white separation thing. So as of now, I'm using black and white for all the speeches and all the narrative parts of my films, and I use the non-black and white version for anything that happens during the day. The second wedding was perfect for me. I was very excited. It was exactly what I wanted to show and the type of wedding I was looking for. This is when I discovered the biggest weakness of my camera and the main reason why I would switch this camera eventually for weddings. And that is that it cannot record to a dual SD card, even that it has dual SD card slots. While shooting, one of my SD cards got corrupted. A brand new car, by the way, it was just a couple months old, and it got corrupted. And I just lost a big chunk of this beautiful wedding, and I had beautiful shots in that one. Luckily for the ceremony, I had the 2 other cameras, which we managed to make a decent edit, but not ideal, of course. For the other parts that I have missing, I have had a lot of drone shots, but I don't have any prep shots, which is fine because the groom and the bride were not that keen on the prep shots. I mean, they were very kind and very good, and they were still very happy with the product they got, so...
Więc wydaje mi się, że podzielacie moje zdanie i że podziękujmy im za ten wspaniały...
Another very big lesson that I learned was that I cannot rely on wireless microphones and wireless sound. What happened was that I had my Sennheiser microphones attached to the groom, only one of them. Between the time I attached it and the time they actually entered was very long, and my microphones, they switch off automatically if they don't connect for a while, which led to that when the groom came in, the microphone was off, so I didn't have any sound from the microphone from the groom. I had the microphone on the priest, which was good enough for me to have like for the ceremony edit.
Ze świętym Józefem, jej oblubieńcem.
Last wedding was a bit more simple, and due to a request from the couple not to upload these videos and not to show them, you know, they wanted a bit more private video. I cannot show you as many footage here. I can show you some. But I did apply everything I learned from the previous 2 weddings, and this is so far the wedding that went the smoothest. During the ceremony, again, because I needed to deliver a full edit of ceremony, I had all my 3 cameras running, constantly. Usually I had one of the camera that it's just moving around. This time I decided to have all 3 cameras to be constant and to be concentrated on the couple and the priest and etc. I did make sure that the microphones are on and synchronized way ahead, and also spoke to the groom ahead to explain what he needs to do if it happens and I give him a sign, because it's literally just need to press one button and that's all. I guess if I have to say that if I learned something from this particular wedding was to bring a light with me and at least one stand, if I have an option of course, because their venue was, the lighting was very boring. They only had like the house lights on top, which was very flat, and during the first dance the photographer actually took out one light. Luckily it was a constant fixture. Now, a few things that apply to all weddings. I do like to be minimal with my filming. However, I noticed that by me trying to be minimal with filming and film what I think that I'm gonna use, I'm actually missing stuff, and sometimes I undershoot a lot and I don't have enough footage to actually cover, let's say, the edit that I need to do or I want to do. So I'll probably try to a bit overshoot next time and eventually try to find my happy middle, let's say. I mostly undershot when it comes to the actual location, because if you watch my videos you will notice that I don't have as much establishing shots and like to bring people into where we are at the moment in general. So I will try to shoot a bit more locations and decorations and stuff like this, just to help me bring the vibe in and not to be just people. It was a bit of an afterthought, but for the first 2 videos I filmed, I felt that I need some kind of an intro for them. So I decided to film additional footage especially for my intro, and I didn't want to start like a typical wedding with a drone shot and stuff like this.
Bonġu lilkom nies, wasalna li jitmim ta' wissu u lesti biex nilqgħu x-xitwa. Però mhux qabel ma neħilsu misħana li għadha magħna. Ġifri għalissa żanzu dawk il-malji, ixtru dak il-ġelat u gawdu żejjer Maltin għal dawn il-ġimgħat li ġejjin.
In love, it has to be an active verb. You have to show it and be powerful and be present every day. It's not something that you can just look not hot. You have to look hot and you have to be good and present.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Malta International Airport. The local time here is 6:45 with slightly windy but overall good weather conditions. Please remain seated with your seatbelt fastened until the fasten seatbelt sign is switched off. When it is safe to leave your seat, take care when opening the overhead compartments, as items may have shifted during transit. The crew would like to welcome back those of you and wish.
But I do like starting my videos this way. I believe it's very, very interesting. It kind of builds the vibe of the video and it builds the feel, or at least how it was, without actually showing any wedding related stuff. In my previous video I explained that I want to shoot mainly on my 56mm Helios, which is the equivalent of around 85 on a full frame, and I still want to shoot that. However, I want to try now to shoot a bit wider just to test if I actually like it. And lastly, I will keep shooting in log profile, because on my first wedding I decided to not film on log profile, and I'm gonna just film one of the simulations, which is great and great for quick turnaround. However, I cannot manipulate the footage as much, and sometimes I don't set up the footage, like each camera, to match perfectly, right? The dynamic range also is not as good. On the second wedding I tried to shoot in a flat profile, and I really love the dynamic range on the camera. You can of course access all of these wedding films on this channel, and have a look and watch and see if you enjoy them or not, and feel free to leave a comment of course if you like them or not. And of course, before you go, I don't want you to leave this video thinking that you didn't learn anything. So here's something for you. Sloths, the animal, can hold their breath longer than dolphins. Thanks for watching.